Welcome to Gridiron Unfiltered, where the ultimate fandom meets the gridiron, presented by Fandom Nation. I'm FDN Insider Joel Norris, alongside with FDN Insider and All Sports KC Insider David Dixon. Today, we are discussing teams that are in need of a bounce-back season heading into 2025 in the NFL. We're going to discuss the Kansas City Chiefs' needs for the 2025 NFL Draft, as well as our fan question. Is a very important fan question out there in Kansas City. Should Travis Kelce retire? Big things on tap for this episode. We're ready to rock and roll. Fandom Nation, YouTube, Instagram, and X at Fandom Nation. Follow, subscribe on all platforms. David, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm just been watching some spring training and refreshing that Chiefs news tab. How about yourself?
Absolutely. I've been watching spring, just getting ready for spring ball. There's a lot in the college realm that are, even though we're not talking about it today, that's, shifting more towards an OTA type style. That's a whole other conversation for another day. They're getting rid of spring games, moving towards a spring OTA type workout like the NFL does. So that's a whole other conversation, like I said. But it's interesting because we're heading into that type of, that type of off season where we're getting ready to watch the workouts, just getting ready and for the new league year and everything. So, and speaking of the new league year, let's talk about the teams that need a bounce back season in 2025. I think it's an interesting topic. There's a lot of teams that in 2024 didn't do so hot, and not just because of they just didn't do good, but because of reasons like injuries and the resources weren't there. But heading into 2025, what do you think, and who are some teams in your mind, David, that are in need of a bounce-back season?
Yeah, I got two teams that come to mind, and I would say one is that they need to bounce back, and the other one they should bounce back. The one that needs to bounce back, I think, is the Bengals. They were once the rivals of Pat Mahomes, the only ones that have defeated them in the AFC, and I think that they need to get back on their horse and get back to form. And I also think that it's going to be pivotal for them to back up their decision, whatever decision they make with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I think that no matter which way they go, they're going to get some criticism for that, and they got to be able to back it up with that play. And then on top of that, where did Trevor Lawrence go, man? He was, at one point, people were saying top 10, top 5, and 3-4 wins last year. I think the Jags need to get some stuff together and figure out how to get back to the playoffs.
Absolutely. I think the Jags, and you hit the nail on the head with the Jaguars. That's one of my teams. The Jaguars are a team that are, especially with Trevor Lawrence, with a quarterback like him who has the full potential to be top at his game, maybe top 10 in the league, right? And I think that that's a good one only because of, one, the talent that he's got. I mean, he's got Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne in the background, in the backfield. He's got guys like Gabe Davis. He's got Evan Ingram. He's got a lot of talent. Christian Kirk on the fence with everything, could get released, and there's been rumors about that. But if you look at just the O-line in general, they're building up the O-line. The defense needs to get more depth on the defense, but they're still coming along on the defense. They're still up and coming, but they're still adding pieces there. Didn't matter. I mean, they're still building. They got the talent. I think the coaching is what is, we're curious about the coaching, right? Liam Cohen joining the Jags. What can he do? Is he going to be a legit head coach? I mean, does he have that true leadership ability to build a roster and manage a roster and manage a team? We don't know that yet. He's a good play caller, but we don't know if he's got the head coaching instincts to manage a team, right? So we just got to wait until September with that. But the Jags are a very interesting case where, okay, with the talent that they got, and at least some key pieces on offense, Brian Thomas Jr., I can even say that. He's the star receiver, or becoming the star receiver for that team. They definitely need to bounce back for sure. I think the Bengals are another interesting one as well with Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. What are they going to do with T. Higgins? What are they going to do with Trey Hendrickson on defense? How are they going to build and add some depth to that defense along with the O-line? I think those are some key things right there for the Bengals also to work on and try to bounce back and try to get to the playoffs for the 2025 year.
Definitely. I think the Jags, I think with Cohen coming in, I think they'll be an improved offense just by that alone. And I think that was their biggest gripe, was their offense. Their offense was pretty poor last year. And I think with a a new play caller, a new age play caller, new generation play caller, I think that'll pay dividends, and I think they can, retool his game, Justin Lawrence's game, or Trevor Lawrence's game, retool his game and get him back into that form that we saw in his early years.
And the funny thing about everything is, like, a lot of people are going towards that younger style of coaching, like with Liam Cohen, a younger coach. Sean McVay, somewhat of a younger coach. Everyone's trying to, like, have a young coach on their team. The Saints, who we're going to talk about in a minute, young coach Kellen Moore now with the Saints. I mean, everyone's trying to adjust to that style of, like, okay, we're hiring a young head coach, and that's just the way the NFL, not just college, because college was like first, but now the NFL is going that route too. I think the Jags I think it's an interesting hire. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, it's a bad hire, it's a good hire, but it's one of those things where we just got to see. But they are in need of a bounce back season. They really do need to find a way to get things going. Especially, okay, it doesn't matter first year. They need to get some things going, especially with the talent that they got on offense. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is too good of a quarterback. I think Brian Thomas Jr., like I said, too good of a receiver. They got two good running backs in Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. So it's like they need to get things going, especially on the offensive side of things. One team that I can mention is the 49ers. I think the 49ers need to have a bounce back season for sure. They have one of the best rosters in football. I think that despite not winning it all, I'm not going to get into the whole other conversation, and that could be a fan question for Gridiron Unfiltered, but I just think as a whole, they have a great defense, great offense with a talent, just by talent alone. Robert Saleh coming in to be the new quote-unquote old, back to being the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, which is a good hire in my opinion. I think that the Niners coming back in, they need to get healthy. That's the number one thing, and I think that's the reason why they need a bounce-back season is to stay healthy, and when they're healthy, who's all over the Niners? Who can step up to the Niners, right? They're usually a solid football team. So I don't know about you, but I think the Niners are a interesting case for in need of a bounce-back season as well.
I completely agree. I mean, 6 wins is well below what they expect out of themselves. But I'm not worried for them because a lot of it was the health reasons. And Robert Saleh belongs as a defensive coordinator. He's done well as a defensive coordinator. I think he'll do well again with the 49ers. So I think that, just getting healthy. And maybe, adding some pieces to where you don't have to rely on Christian McCaffrey being there because he can get hurt. He's done it before. He might do it again. So I think that having, some more depth there, but also just getting healthy in general, I think they'll be fine next year.
Absolutely. And I think that not just that, it's building, was the Debo trade, the request. We all know about the Debo trade. You've heard about the Debo request and the trade request going on there. It's an interesting case there, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to hurt them too much because of how loaded they are at receiver, how loaded they are on the O-line. How loaded, like I said, in the backfield. They have Christian McCaffrey, they have CMC. A fully healthy CMC is dangerous, right? And they have the pieces on defense. I just think that the injuries and the conditioning is what is holding them back a little bit. And that's all it is for the Niners. I think they can make it back to the playoffs. They just got to remain healthy. Am I going to sit there and say they're going to win it all? I'm not saying that at all. It's way too early to talk about that stuff. But I think they can have a bounce back here and win more than the average of 6 games, right? Because they're just too good for that. I think one more that I can mention out of my end, and you can add more to it as well. The Saints. I mean, the Saints need a complete, just full-on rebuild. I think that the Saints, have, Mickey Loomis is a GM that I'm not going to say needs to be studied, but nowadays needs to be studied. I think that back then it was okay. Sean Payton, they had that whole era, but they need to take their fingerprints off of whatever Sean Payton has left on there, and they need a total rebuild. New era, start over. It's Kellen Moore's show. They need to fix the offense, fix everything on defense. They need to, I think they need to restructure Alvin Kamara's contract. I think there's a lot that needs to happen for them to have a bounce-back season. And, one, addressing the quarterback issue, obviously, but also addressing some receivers. I think Chris Olave's good, but they need some more help. Chris Olave needs more help other, than just him getting the ball majority of the time. I don't know about you, but I think the Saints are in need of some help and a bounce-back season.
I think their big issue is quarterback. I mean, we've seen it. Derek Carr, always capable of his 8-8, and that's it. And I mean, the only thing he's done over these last couple of years with the Saints is just throw hospital passes to Chris Olave. So I'm not a big fan of Derek Carr, and I think his time in this league as a starter is about up.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think that they haven't drafted. So the Saints haven't drafted, and I don't know if you know this stat or not. This is an interesting stat. They haven't drafted a quarterback since the 70s in the first round. They haven't drafted a quarterback in the first round since the 70s, since Archie Manning. Since Archie Manning. That's a long time ago. I think that, yes, they need to address the quarterback issue. They got Doug Nussmeier as OC, hint, hint, LSU. We'll talk about that another time. But I think that they have the interesting offensive dynamic there. They have Brandon Staley's an interesting case there. Don't look at it as the head coach Brandon Staley. Look at him as DC Brandon Staley, because he was a good DC. I will admit that. They were the Rams were the number one defense under Brandon Staley. So it's interesting to see what pieces they bring in. I think they need to go better than what they did last year, obviously. But two more, and you can get your take on everything, but there's two more. I think the Dolphins are in need of a bounce back season as well. I think that the injury with Tua did hurt them. I think some more injuries hurt them as well. But I think when healthy, their offense does click. I think, and not only just when they're clicking health wise, but also when they're on the same page, when the chemistry is there, they're really good. I'm not going to say they're Super Bowl good, but they are good enough to make the playoffs. I think that, Tua cooking on all cylinders when fully healthy, having that chemistry with Tyreek and Jalen, it's just really hard to stop that speed and that chemistry between them offensively. So I don't know about you, but I think they're in need of a bounce back season after what transpired in 2024.
I would agree. It is the Tua health thing is a big part of it too. But I mean, I don't think the Dolphins are a bad team by any means, and that division's, aside from the Bills, obviously, is pretty wide open. The bottom two teams are pretty garbage, and I think if they can clean up the ones they should win, I think they'll be fine as well. And I think this will be a good test year for their head coach to see if he is legit, if he can actually perform, or if it was just that 1 year with that crazy offense, and then now that it's on film, he can't do it again. So, yeah, and with Brandon Staley, man, as long as you keep that man's hands off the clock, I think you'll be fine with him. His clock management is some of the worst things I've ever seen. But aside from that, yeah, I think Brandon Staley will do fine in New Orleans. Absolutely.
And I think for the Dolphins, like you said, Tua just needs to stay healthy. That's just the main thing. Tua needs to stay healthy. Tyreek has got to get some better team chemistry. He's ruffled a lot of feathers with his comments. I think he's got to regain some of that trust within his offense with some of his teammates. And I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine offensively. Defensively, a little bit of an issue, but I think that if they can build some more depth and add some key pieces, especially at linebacker, I think linebacker's an issue as well. Secondary, for sure, I think they could be fine at those two areas. Defensive line, they're okay, but linebacker will add some more depth there, add some more depth to the secondary. They'll be fine, especially. One more team, and then I'll give it, and then the floor is yours if you want to add any more teams on this, but one more team out of my end. The Indianapolis Colts, and you're going to think that's an interesting one, but they have come close for the past 2 years on making it, and then they ended up just, it implodes every time. I don't know what Shane Steichen's doing at head coach at the tail end, but he is not, he didn't have that, that knack to finish. It seems like he's got to figure out a way to finish the regular season out strong and win some of these key games in order to make the playoffs, even if it's the wild card, just make the playoffs and to win the AFC South. They got to have a bounce back year in terms of, finishing the season strong and trying to at least bring some competition towards the Texans. I don't know what you think on that, but I think it's an interesting study there. And not only that, and there's a follow-up question with that too that you can answer also. Do you think the Anthony Richardson experiment, give it more time, or do you think they need to figure it out on trying to go another route?
Yeah, so I was actually going to ask you that same question. Do you think Anthony Richardson's the answer? And personally, I liked the first, 5 or 6 games that he played before getting injured that rookie year. I think he was really, really good. I think that's someone that you want to lock up. That's someone that you want to have man the ship for a while. But last season was just so abysmal out of him. And I feel like, that I don't think it was enough for you to cut ties, but, maybe get a backup quarterback that you wouldn't be upset with starting. You know what I mean? Like, not a Joe Flacco, but, like a quarterback that's got some experience, and don't bank on Anthony Richardson being your guy all year, but definitely give him a shot. Definitely. And then, another team that I think needs to bounce back, it's more of a player than a team, but I would say that the Bears and Caleb Williams, they got hot at the end. Caleb Williams had some pretty good numbers as for a rookie year. And I think if he can improve upon that and the team can improve as a whole, then the Bears could be a force to be reckoned with. Could be. I don't know. We'll see.
It's interesting to see what Ben Johnson does up there. Everyone's talking about them as being like the breakout team in the NFL heading into 2025, and I think they have the potential. They just have to. I think they got to go offensive line heavy during the offseason, during free agency coming up within the next few days, because free agency is coming up in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. And then they have the draft coming up in April. I just think they need to go offensive line heavy, build up that veteran O-line. I think add some more depth to the defense. Nothing wrong with that. But I think that O-line for sure needs to be worked on. I mean, they have our Darnell Wright, but I think, if they add a Trey Smith, that's the rumors going around, like Chicago's looking to try to push for him. Who knows? But I think that the O-line for sure is the number one priority for Chicago, to protect Caleb Williams and to get that offense going. I don't know about you, but I think that's really interesting for Chicago.
Oh, definitely. They got to burn some first rounders, or if they even have any first rounders, but they got to burn some picks on some O-linemen for sure.
Guys, what do you think is going to be, or who do you guys, which teams or players or what have you, who needs a bounce back season? Who do you think needs a bounce back season heading into the 2025 year? Comment down below on X, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, if you want to, or are a fan of any of the teams that we just mentioned, click the links below. There's 49ers apparel, like a backpack if you want to rep the Dolphins with some nice shades, rock some sunglasses. There's some Saints if you want to get comfortable, rock a Saints throw blanket. Also, down below in the comments, click the links below on this description of this YouTube video for all the teams that we just mentioned. Click the link below. Fan Day Nation on YouTube. Subscribe on all platforms on X and Instagram, as well as YouTube. Comment down below and click the links below in the description. Guys, let's get going and let's just shift into our next segment and let's talk about some Kansas City Chiefs. And interesting topic here. This is for a good question for you, David. The draft's coming up, and even though the Chiefs are going to be the 31st team, on the board, on the clock, out of the first round, just in the draft in general, not just there, but in the draft in general, what do you think are some needs for the Chiefs in the 2025 NFL draft? I think there are some key pieces there, but I want to know from your perspective, who do you think the Chiefs need to help out their team going into 2025 and beyond?
I think offensive line obviously is a big one. Anybody who watched the game saw our offensive line was pretty poor. But I think that we're going to trade up, honestly. I think that we're going to trade up in the first round. I think we're going to get a tackle for the future, a left tackle, a true left tackle. I don't think we're going to go for any right tackle projects. I don't think we're going to go for any interior linemen for sure. But I think we're going to go for a true left tackle in the middle of the first round. And I think we're trade up to get there. And then outside of that, we could look into drafting a replacement for Trey Smith if they do decide not to bring him back. I still think there's a chance they bring him back. And then outside of that, I think we need to target a middle linebacker, a Nick Bolton replacement, and a safety as well, a Justin Reed replacement. And these won't be like the day one replacements. These will be like for the future. We have guys that will step up next year in place of Nick Bolton and Justin Reed. But for the long term, we need something long term, and I think we're going to use the draft to get that. And then in those later rounds, I could see us getting a running back possibly. I don't think that they trust Carson Steele very much, and I don't think we're bringing Kareem Hunt back. So it'll be Pacheco, and we're going to need to add on the back of that. I would look for them to take a receiving back of some sort, like a Darren Sproles, like what they thought Clyde was going to be kind of deal. And past that, maybe some D-line depth, some interior D-line depth, because we're losing Trishawn Wharton. But I think that's really it. It's just it's going to take a lot of capital to get high enough to pick a serviceable tackle. So So we'll see how many picks we have left if we do decide to trade up in that first round.
I think there's some good needs. I think, and I'm going to have a follow-up question on the receiving end also, but I think there's one good player, if you're talking about a running back for the Chiefs, trading in to get a running back and shock everybody. If you want to trade up and get somebody, I think a one person that no one, they're talking about, but not really talking about going to the Chiefs. That's Cam Skattebo from Arizona State. He's got the power to be a very good power back, because Isaiah Pacheco's, he's got some power to him, but he's got a lot of speed with him. Cam Skattebo's got some power with him. He's like a bowling ball, man. He just wrecks people at Arizona State. He did that at Arizona State all year. You got him. He's also got some good hands on top of that. I don't know if you watched the Peach Bowl, but he caught an absolute just bomb and dime from Sam Levitt in the Peach Bowl against Texas in the playoff, and it set him up in the red zone. And it was because of Cam Skattebo's reception and hands that got him there. So, I think that he's got some dynamic hands. He's got some power behind him. He does got some speed, but he's got some elusiveness with him as well as the power and the hands. So I think if you want to take an underrated receiving back, and have some power behind it, Cam Skattebo can be it. I think if you trade up for a tackle, some of the best tackles in the draft, you got Will Campbell out of LSU. Emory Jones could be one. I think Emory Jones could be a good bet for the Chiefs only because of one, Campbell and Banks could be taken or can be already be drafted already by that time. Jones would probably still be on the board. I think Jones is the third or fourth best O lineman in the draft, and I think Emory Jones could be just shot out by the Chiefs, and if they trade up and they could snag him really quick and add some more depth, but also bring him up, and teach him and get some experience in with him by drafting him. And he's a future NFL O lineman for sure. Emory Jones is. So that'd be a good, choice. My follow-up question on the receiving end of everything is, if they were to, I know they've drafted a receiver for the past few drafts, but what would be a good, if they did trade up for a receiver again and take a receiver, who would you think would be a good choice for that? Are there any receivers in mind that you're thinking about that, he would fit in with, Mahomes in the offense?
Yeah, I'm tapping in my deep well of college football knowledge, and it's not very deep. So I could name a receiver, but if I'm looking for a type, I would say that we would target someone that has a Hollywood Brown type of skill set, and that's if we don't bring back Hollywood Brown, because we got that possession type of receiver in Rice, and then we got the deep threat, the gadget type of player in Worthy, and then I think we can we could use another quick slants guy, kind of elusive, like Hollywood Brown is. Good hands. I think somebody like that. Who that is, I do not know, but so a type like that.
There's one receiver that a lot of people aren't going to talk about in this draft, and I'm going to talk about him. But Nick Nash, his name's Nick Nash. He's from San Jose State, and he, in my opinion, he led college football in receiving yards. Not just the Mountain West, not just the Group of Five, but in college football, all college football. He's an elite prospect. He was a senior out of San Jose State. I think he was a Biletnikoff Award finalist. I'm not sure, but he was a good receiver, a solid and elite receiver. Didn't win the Biletnikoff. Travis Hunter won the Biletnikoff, but I think that he could be a good type of hands receiver that you're looking for. And if you want to run a slant with Nick Nash, you could do it, and he can just quickly snag a ball, and then he's got the hands to do it, lengthy hands to do it, and he'll just take off. He's lanky, he's long, and I think that could be a good option for, the Chiefs, right, and Mahomes on the offense there. But is there any more needs that you're thinking about that you think, besides, receiver or a bat or a tackle or a running back that you could think of for the Chiefs heading into 2025 for this draft?
Yeah, I think there would be more focus on, extra focus on linebacker, especially if we don't bring back Nick Bolton, because Nick Bolton's such a key piece to this. And a lot of people will say Leo Chanel's ready to take that next step, but Leo doesn't play the same position as Nick, and I don't think that he can switch positions. I don't think he's looking to either. So I think if we don't bring back Nick Bolton, it'll be the Drew Tranquil show, and we're going to have to pick a successor because we're not bringing back Drew after his contract's up. So, yeah, it's probably going to be that middle linebacker, a field general. I don't think we are going to go after an athletic freak type of linebacker. I think we want more of a cerebral play caller linebacker.
Absolutely. And I think that if you want to go for a linebacker that type, I mean, I can't say like a hybrid linebacker, like an edge hybrid, like Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter will probably go top 5. But if you want a sneaky linebacker, there's a lot of guys in this draft that could be, who could take that mantle, right, that Nick Bolton carried and do what Nick Bolton does. I have to dive deep into more of the linebacker spectrum of this class, but obviously Abdul Carter, probably the hybrid linebacker / edge, will go top 5, so he'll be too early. I don't know if they're going to trade up for that, but I mean, you never know. We'll see. I think the linebacker's a good area. It's a good class for a linebacker, not like tackle and tight end and those type. But the Chiefs wouldn't, it wouldn't hurt them to pull a linebacker out of this class, I don't think. So, that's my thoughts. I'm not, sitting there and saying that, they're hurting, right, on linebacker, because you got Drew Tranquil, right? Tranquil's really solid, but it wouldn't hurt to get an extra linebacker.
Definitely. Only if we don't bring back Nick. If we bring back Nick, then don't worry about it. Get some undrafted guy that you like a little bit and put him on your practice squad, and that'll be it. But yeah, all the decisions really are gonna be determined by what these moves are they make before the draft. So if Kelce doesn't come back, then tight end's gonna be a big need. But if he does come back, then I think Gray and him are perfectly fine. And then if we get rid of Trey Smith, then we're gonna need to replace him somehow. I don't think we have anybody on the roster that can do that. So, the needs switch up very heavily based on what the Chiefs plan to do over these next few months or few weeks.
Absolutely. And guys, that's a good segue to go into our fan question here in a little bit. But guys, what do you think, and what do you think about the Chiefs, and what do they need for the draft, and who do you think some of the needs are for their draft class going into 2025? Guys, let us know in the comments below. Comment on X, comment on Instagram, comment on YouTube, follow and subscribe on all platforms at Fanday Nation. And if you want to rock your Kansas City Chiefs and rep the Kansas City Chiefs, click the link below, get all your apparel down below, and rock and be the ultimate fan for the Kansas City Chiefs. Just click the link down below in this YouTube video. Click it down below at Fanday Nation. Leads us to our fan question, because I'm glad you brought that up about tight end. Fan question for this episode to conclude our episode of Gridiron Unfiltered. Should tight end Travis Kelce for the Kansas City Chiefs, should Travis Kelce retire? Big question there. A lot of his decision is yet to be made as of now. Do not know. He's got until, I think, March 14th is what I've been hearing. I'm going to start with you, David. As a fan, do you think that Travis Kelce should retire from professional football?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a hard no. I don't think he should. And I'm going to actually I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to ask you some questions and give you some numbers here.
Okay.
Where do you think he ranked last year in terms of tight end yards?
Was it top 10?
Yes.
Okay. Was it 5th?
It was 5th.
Okay.
Yes. And where do you think he ranked in terms of tight end catches last year?
Was it top 5?
It was top 5, yes.
Was it 3rd?
It was either 3rd or 4th. I'm actually blanking on that one, but it was top 5. So, and then to reframe it, a lot of people were talking about his low stats, first year under 900 yards, this and that, low touchdowns. If you reframe his games in his last 16 games, so including the playoffs and discluding, I think, the first 3, he ended up having 100 receptions and 929 yards, which would have ranked 10th overall in total receptions, not including receivers and tight ends. And it would have ranked him 4th overall in tight end yards. And I think that, by those numbers alone, that's a top 5 tight end right there. And if his down years are if he's limping to top 5 tight end seasons, that's fine by me. He could be out here till he's 45 if that's what he's going to do. So yeah, definitely, there's a lot of people that would take him if he was a free agent. You know what I mean? Not that he would go anywhere, but he's definitely a serviceable tight end.
Absolutely. I think that, in my opinion, this is my thoughts. I have a yes and no answer on this, and you're gonna think it's not really an answer, but it's a yes or no. I think yes, only because statistically on those numbers he's been good, but everywhere else his numbers have been the worst statistically he's had in his career. Now, besides those two categories, now, it's not because he can't play. I think to me, everyone's going to say he's not in shape, Joel. He is in shape. I think he can get in shape and get into football shape to play. That's not it. I think if he wants to play and he has the will and the drive to play, he can ball out. Absolutely. I think he shouldn't retire then. My question is, does he have the will to play? That's my only question. Does he have the desire and the will to play? I saw some plays in that Eagles game where it looked a little bit like he looked a little distraught out there in a way. Like, okay, what are we like? I'm just beat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm beat, right? And sometimes you all have those games where it gets in your head. You're thinking, the grind's getting to me, kind of, you know? Is he willing, and does he have the drive? I'm dropping my pen, man. Is he willing? Does he have the drive to do everything there? You know, like, does he have that will within him to keep going and to push through and to grind to try to get back to a title game and do another Super Bowl? That's my only spot with it. If he doesn't have that will, he should retire. If he does have the will to keep going and to keep playing, I would say don't retire and ball out. That's all I can say about it. That's my answer. So yes and no would be my answer.
100%. I agree with what you're saying. And, that's something that only he knows and we don't know. But if I could get into speculation, and this isn't, there's no, facts to back this up. But if you look at it, he's got the girlfriend and Taylor, but no kids, so he's not, taking time away from his family because Taylor's still working and touring or whatever she's doing, right? She's busy. So it's not like he's taking time away from her. And on top of that, it's like, I don't think he wants to go out in that way. He knows he put up a bad game. He's seen the film. I know he's seen the film, and he's seen some of his poor efforts in that game. And I don't think he can stomach leaving it on that. And then to top it off, if you look at Jason Kelce retires, they win the Super Bowl the next year. So I think, still being in this championship window the Chiefs are, I think that he would regret it if he retired. And, based on his personality, I don't think he's ready to hang it up either. But in terms of the willpower, if I could defend some of his play in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs, or him, like the core that's been around for these last 3 Super Bowls that we've been in, have played an average of an extra 1.6 seasons, I think, or something like that, like an incredibly stupid amount of games more than the average player has, just because of all the playoff games they've been in. So there's definitely some burnout there. And I could see, game 60 in the last 3 years, and you're down by 30 in the third quarter. I don't know. A lot of people would give up in that spot, I'm not saying he should have, but, I could see why.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. I could see why, too. It was a big-time loss. Blowout of the Super Bowl. Eagles were all over him. So I agree with you, and I can see why. Guys, if you think that Travis Kelce should retire or not, comment down below on X and Instagram. We'll most likely have clips below, on it. But X and Instagram at Fanday Nation. There's also on YouTube at Fanday Nation. Comment down below if you think Travis Kelce should retire in our communities. Shout out to our Fanday Nation communities. Answer the question there. Should Travis Kelce retire from professional football and the game of football in the NFL? Guys, if you're hungry, because football does make me hungry. I don't know about you, David, but it makes me for sure hungry. Guys, click the link below. Get your meat on, your sausage and burger meats down below. Click the link, and you can get all your meats necessary ready to get ready and right to eat for game day. There's also our insider pages. Click the link down below to get to know me and David as your host of Gridiron Unfiltered and as your subjects and podcast, aficionados of Gridiron Unfiltered for All Sports KC and Insider and FD Insider. David Dixon, my colleague, my partner in crime for this one. I'm FD Insider Joel Norris. Guys, signing out. We'll see you again Friday for another edition of Gridiron Unfiltered. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. So long, everybody. This is Gridiron Unfiltered, presented by Fanday Nation, where the ultimate fandom meets the gridiron.